everybody. Hear me okay? Oh, I can hear you now. Okay. I'm Brian Hoffmeister. I'm the CIO for BellRing Brands. You'll see a couple of our products up here, and if you don't know BellRing Brands or you don't know these products, just wait a minute, and I'll hopefully find a product that you've seen before. So our two major products that we sell, I'm going to give you a little bit of history about the company first, and then I'll turn it over to the real stars of the show who will talk to you about our 09 journey. It's Premier Protein. It's a ready-to-drink shake, and Dynamitized protein powders, which is more for bodybuilders and lifters and things like that. These are the two primary products, although we do have a few other ones, and we've got some licensing deals you can see here too with cereal and pancakes. A lot going on in this chart, but really this is where I was hoping maybe you'll find a brand that you've seen or a logo before, because this company's got some history to it. You'll notice that we've got Power Bar, Premier Protein, and Dynamitized that show up in our portfolio that go all the way back to the 80s. All these businesses didn't really come together though. Fast forward until about 2013, 2014, when Post Holdings, probably you know them for the Post cereal brand, acquired all those to create a nutrition division. That nutrition division was called Post Active Nutrition. And they realized quickly that there was a whole lot of value locked up in that business that shareholders really couldn't see because it was sitting next to all of these other business entities that were inside of the Post brand. So we did an IPO in 2019 to spin all those businesses out. And when we spun all those businesses out, we formed a new company called BellRing. And you might wonder why BellRing. It has a lot to do with our values at the company. So our company really lives and breathes these values. They're not just something we put up on, on slides and say, yeah, no one thinks about it. These things are plastered all over our building. You'll see actually our CEO is in this Connect and Belong photo. She's out there and does a whole lot of stuff with the community. But the one I want to draw your attention to is Ring the Bell. So on the Ring the Bell item, that's really us coming together to celebrate as a team. We still do this today. It goes all the way back to when the company was founded, where we have a bell in the office and anybody in the company can actually come in and ring this bell. And no matter what's going on, everybody stops what they're doing and they go and they hear what's going on. They celebrate that win for the company. It's a really cool environment. Now, we ring it a little less these days, because it's hard to stop every meeting you're in when you're a larger company. But it's a great value. You can see here our growth has been pretty crazy. This is one of the reasons that you're going to hear us talking about 09. We've got about a 20% CAGR since 2019. So the growth has just been tremendous for us. And we're in this diagram, it shows we're about 1.6 billion is about where we're sitting. It's 2023, 2024. We're a public company, so I can't share too much, but you can check us out to see where we're going in 2024. And really one of the last things I want to talk about before I kick it over to my colleagues here is we had this, because of all that rapid growth I just talked to you about, we had things changing so fast in the business that we could never really catch up with the way we were planning, product releases. I mean, there's just a lot going on when you're growing that fast. So as a leadership team, we decided that we would spend time, money, and really just get behind a program that would take us from where we were to 4 or 5 steps in front of us. This is why we called it Catapult. We said we didn't want to just look for next year. We said, let's get ready for 5 years from now, 6 years from now. And these were the main objectives for that. And part of that initiative, the very first one that we kicked off was our supply and demand planning journey. So I'm going to pass this off to Kelly to take it from here.
Thanks, Brian. All right. Hi again. I'm Kelly Marta. I lead the integrated business planning, demand planning, and operational excellence functions at Premier. I've been there about 3 years. And one of the exciting pieces of that journey over about the last year and a half was continuing our journey with 09 and taking that journey with Catapult to the next level. So we were actually an early 09 adopter. We implemented 09 for the first time in 2017. And when we implemented, we did a lot of customization. At the time, I think a lot of you have been around. Customization was what everybody has done over the years, right? Really, we're unique, we're special, we need it this certain way. And so it was so customized. We unfortunately were at a point that we couldn't take advantage of the new capabilities that kept coming out with 09. Especially as the ref model kind of came in place and all of that functionality continued to grow. And so we got to a point that because we could not take advantage of the functionality. We were growing, as Brian just showed, significantly, our network expanding, et cetera. We also came to a point where stability and being able to maintain the amount of information and next level pieces of our roadmap, it was no longer sustainable to move us forward. So that is what led us. We knew we needed to make a change. And we obviously had been close partners with O9 for several years at that point, and wanted to take advantage of all of these great capabilities with the reference model. So when we stood back and said, what are those things we need? Kind of, I think earlier folks talked about like right out of the box. We wanted to get some right out of the box things for quick wins immediately. So one, just getting standard to industry best practice, being able to take advantage of all of those continued new releases and functionality, having the agility to continue to keep up with the releases, efficiency for data visibility, and exception management. Exception management is big. You'll hear me mention that again, but we wanted to get the planners to more of an exception-based mindset. And then for demand, it was actually implementing stat modeling, which isn't the sexiest thing on the market, but it's like, for us, it was a big deal. We hadn't done it yet. And so that is the journey, and we wanted that immediately after having talked about it for some time. And with that, also dollarization. So for that common language across our partners, we knew dollarization was important. We had to do a bunch of Excel conversions, et cetera, to get that. And now we can get it immediately within the tool. And then on supply, it was more about our advancing our supply planning solver. So those were the things, must-haves right out of the gate. And then we had the future state of where we already are thinking we want to go. So S&OE process, establishing that and setting it up, as well as obviously the technology to support that shorter term horizon, coupled with control tower. We've got machine learning, so we've got to get stat fully going, but machine learning, we have our eye on it for down the road. Shelf life management, and then MEIO. Those are some of the areas we're planning to go next. When we think about our approach in terms of our journey over the implementation of the project, we really wanted to make sure we had a model that was best fit. So again, we did look at multiple providers, because anytime you're embarking on a big capital investment and this change, you owe it to yourself to see what's out there. Brought us back to O9. O9 fit 75% fit for what we were looking for and where we were planning to go. But it was also that lens on employee experience, as well as that exception based mindset, getting the planning team to the next level with more value add, both in demand and supply, back to the business. And so we wanted that impact to grow and be more present in the broader organization, and be a partner at the table where we're providing more insights and relevant information on the business. For our implementation, we partnered with Accenture and leveraged a sprint agile approach for our implementations, which we started kind of a parallel path of process and tool development at the same time to enable those short timelines. Originally, we started with like a 6-month timeline each, which we'll talk about in a minute, some learnings there. But we did the sprint approach. We staggered demand and supply go lives intentionally. We wanted to be able, one, to get some learnings as we got to the supply implementation, but also supply is more complex, right? So start with, I think somebody said earlier, the quick wins. We wanted to get the quick wins on demand. And then new supply would be bigger change management, bigger technology solve, and like bringing new capabilities. So just a bigger lift for us. I wanted really to leverage some of the learnings on the demand side there. From a change perspective, I mean, again, all these themes today are kind of repeating, which hopefully for those embarking on this, you can take it back and leverage it. But senior leader engagement is core. We are very fortunate, but it was planful too, to get our senior leadership buy-in from the front and sponsorship. So we have an executive sponsor for the initiative, very engaged in several meetings every week. And we provided report backs to our company every week as well. So we have a protein boost, it's called. Love the protein play there. Every Tuesday, and it's an all-company meeting. So we are a company of about 250 now, but we all get together every week. Some remote, some in the company, or live, and we provided updates on where we were. So really keeping them involved along the journey, hearing where we were going, getting back in front repeatedly, not huge presentations or anything, but touching base, right? So keeping that momentum and keeping the communication open. We built strong morale by acknowledging where and when we needed to make pivots. And that went a long way with the project team, where if we hit a roadblock, and I mentioned the sprint approach, where we were running full force with process and tool. Well, sometimes in spots we're like, oof, we can't keep going on the tool because we need to revisit some of the things on process and make sure we're connecting them. So where we needed to pivot and say, you know what, we're going to need a little bit more time here to do it right versus force something in and then we're going to have to backtrack anyway. We had those tough conversations with our leadership team, and we're able to, again, get their buy-in and make sure we're doing what was right for adoption ultimately at the end, so that we would not lose those end users along the way. And then the SMEs within the functional teams, you've heard super user today, super critical. Also to be your change agent, one of your many avenues of change, but then also to have their buy-in, and that's how they ultimately act as change agent, because they're vested in the process. You're giving, letting them have their voices heard, letting them sit alongside and bring their peers along went an incredibly long way within our group. So lessons learned, there's always lessons learned. Some we were able to implement and impact for our supply go live. Some we were already too far along because we staggered them, but they did start. Demand had started and supply started roughly 3-4 months later. So we weren't able to get all of these learnings in, but some of them we were. So the things we'd like to share with you as you're embarking on this is training. So it's great to have those SMEs involved in the preview of the training, getting them, getting their input, what resonated, what didn't, were there enough business cases there or not. Getting 09 experts, we had some on-site side-by-side support, which went a huge way, a long way when we were doing testing, specifically finding bugs or whatever. We could get quick solves, and they could work with us to see the issue right away, or whatever we had to work on. So that partnership went a very long way, and there's a lot of friendships actually that came out of that when the team got to work so closely. We extended our hypercare proactively for supply. We knew we needed a bit more time. We started with a very short hypercare to begin with. It was like 2 to 3 weeks. We went a bit longer than that, just to make sure those handoffs were ready. And then for future, Tracy's going to talk about the COE in a minute, but that was a big portion of this as well, standing up a COE. But for future, it's process before the tool. I think that's known, but I think it is a learning. We would have changed. We would have made sure we spent more time on process in the future, not so much of a sprint. Dedicated project team where you can, at least a few dedicated members, because it was a heavy lift. And Grubhub gift cards only went so far. We tried to, incent people, which is a good one actually. Send people a chance to get food when they're working a lot of hours. But we did a lot of stuff like that, gift basket, like anything to kind of keep the morale up. And then the side-by-side design with the SME. So I mentioned that we had 09 there for during the testing and go live, but it would have been nice during design to have a bit more real-time kind of side-by-side sessions too with some of our planners on our end, so that we can make sure the functionality met. So that would just be something that we would do a little bit differently for future. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Tracy to talk more about the COE.
Thank you, Kelly. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. So I'm Tracy. I lead the COE organization. Here we call it operational excellence. So I'm going to take you through our journey. So 6 months prior to go live, we sold in the COE organization. We were the first in PNC. It was a really easy selling because Kelly, myself, and our SVP for operation came from a large CPG company. And I'll tell you a story. The company that I was with dissolved the entire COE because they say that continuous improvement is an integral part of everyone's job. Everyone should be doing 5 to 10% of your job focused on continuous improvements. So rather than paying an organization, they say let's dissolve it for cost reasons. Fast forward 2 years later, the company split into 2 companies. Guess what? The first thing that we did. For hypergrowth, the company was focused on hypergrowth. To do the hypergrowth, they say, we need to bring the experts back. They reach out to some of us who were experts in certain functions and says, I'm going to steal you from the old company into the new company. And we redesigned and built up an entire COE organization. Because they know that when you have 5 to 10% of your job expected to do some continuous improvements, it's not going to happen. Because you're going to be doing firefighting, everything else, you're not going to have the focus and attention. So for us, it was super easy selling. What's interesting was we stood up the team 1 month after go live with total of 5 headcounts, which is amazing because we were debating about 3 versus 5. We actually did use a lot of temps in between the projects, and then later on we hired them back into the COE. There you have some experiences in planning and in the project itself. For us, we focus on, of course, supporting DP and SP, demand and supply, but we also focus a lot on analytics, where my team does have somebody who does modeling, and we also do network optimization, which is on the strategy side. Additionally, we also focus on expertise repository, building up the SMEs. This is not just talking about job aids, training guides, and video recordings, but in addition to that, we know that a lot of times nobody wants to read through documents. So we created Wikipedia just for O9, just for planning, where everything is at their fingertips. Lastly, my team is focused on centralizing what we call off-cycle activities. And this is actually one of the success of our implementation. We look at what the planners are doing and spending their time, and we said, this is not value added. They're spending way too much time here. Let me take it off. Bring it into the COE organization because the activity is only done once a quarter. We take it off so they have space to deal with the change because things are going to take longer to do initially until they get comfortable. So we absorbed it, but we don't just absorb it. We absorbed it and I turn it into projects. I found ways to automate it. So it's a daily, weekly task, at the same time, a future project for me to automate it out of my team. Continuously improving my own COE organization. 3 months after go live, our COE went up to 70% efficiencies. I'm going to share some KPIs here. We actually are opening 60 tickets, problem tickets, every month, saying that it's almost 2 to 3 tickets per day. And we're saying we have problem with O9. But that's what my team, along with O9 support, working through. Additionally, we are on top of the 60 tickets my team's dealing. We are also rolling out 25 improvements across people, process, and tools, separated in tickets. And then also, any point in time, you're going to see us working on 60 initiatives per month. This is amazing. But what we found out was 75% of our improvements is focused on technology. So we need to really have, again, a dedication and focus. So we partner up with O9 on a PACE team. It's an offshore team that focuses on demand, half a headcount on demand, half a headcount on supply. And then within 2 months, we roll out 9 enhancements. Just to put into perspective, 9 enhancements in the previous, when we were back in 2017-18, would have took us 1 year to implement. So it really speaks to the value of the speed of having focus and attention. Moving ahead, what's next for us? We have 2 values you saw earlier, play to win and be the builder. So everything we have is focused around this. On the first half of next year, we're focusing on stabilization, maximizing what we have, and then also improving user experience. At the same time, on the SP side, we know we have challenges. about light touch. We do want to redesign our solver 6 months after implementation to look at ways we can improve the outputs of the system. Then on the demand side, we're actually shifting from heavy technology focus to process focus. Remember I said earlier, we have 75% of our projects focused on technology. When I look forward, October through December, it's flipping. I'm at 50% technology, 45% focus on process, and 3 to 5% focus on people. So it's shifting, and we're seeing it with demand, because demand went live in November last year. So we have already implemented capabilities like stats, forecast value add, consumption forecast with POS data, but we haven't really seen it successful in process and adoption. So that's what we're going to be focused on, people and process. And leading that into the next back half of 2025, we're also going to focus on that on the supply side, focusing on SOE, control towers, and then into the people side of things, the soft skills, the skill set assessments. Okay. What the focus is, you're going to see 6 months after go live, you're going to focus on technology and tools. But right after that, you're going to find you need to reassess your process and your people. And only can you have that focus again, then in 2026, I can light up more modules within 09, machine learning, MEIO, etc. While my COE team will focus on expansion. My team is a little heavy, but it's on purpose because we took on so much manual work. But once I start to automate that, I can start to take on more and have more impact beyond just the planning space. I can get into customer success, logistics, sourcing, etc. At the same time, I really want my team to focus on people and process and not always on tools, because we always should lead with that. At the end of the day, what I want to summarize for all of you is, why is COE important? COE is important because implementation are not going to go perfectly. It's not going to. Our 60 tickets open per month speaks to it. What's important is post-implementation, you need to find a way to manage the gaps. We put people on it because we lead by people, which we're the good energy people. We want to swap people first. You have to find a way. You can't just let the gap exist. We solve it very quickly within 6 months. We drop from our 60 tickets down to 30. Okay, that speaks volume. At the same time, our planners, we talk a lot about success KPI. My success KPI is my planner happy? Are they saying this implementation is successful or not? Are they hating all night or are they loving it? And then the thing is, when they have issue, they're raising their heads and says, oh, I have issue with 09. I have issue with process clarities. And then what I said is, I got it. You don't have to deal with it. You put your head down, continue to plan. Don't stop your planning and delivering back to the business, because that's the first signal something went wrong. You're going to slow down, but I'm going to give you the thought leadership on how to work around the issue. That's the value of the COE. At the same time, they are feeling very secure. Someone has my back. Someone's going to support me. That, to me, is a success of a COE. At the same time, a critical, very intricate part of the implementation. Okay. So that's all we have. If you guys have any questions, we are going to be hanging out for the rest of the day, especially Kelly and myself. Brian will be exiting. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we would love to connect and share. Thank you.